This wedding needs a proper touch of class. Amanda smirked, tossing aside the carefully crafted seating chart I'd spent weeks perfecting. Honestly, Emily deserves better than this. She gestured dismissively at the mood board my daughter and I had created together. My name is Sarah, and I was watching my sister-in-law systematically dismantle every plan I'd made for my only daughter's wedding. The worst part? Emily wasn't even here to see it happening. Sarah clearly doesn't understand modern weddings, my mother-in-law, Margaret, chimed in, hovering behind Amanda like an approving shadow. Thank goodness you're here to save this from becoming an embarrassment. I gripped the edge of the table, willing myself to stay calm. For 6 months, I've been planning this wedding with Emily, pouring my heart into every detail. The vintage-inspired centerpieces, the hand-lettered place cards, the carefully chosen color scheme. Each element held special meaning. But now, with just 3 weeks until the ceremony, Amanda had swooped in like an unwelcome hurricane. It started with small suggestions at first. The flowers you chose are so basic, or those centerpieces look rather dated, don't they? But yesterday, everything changed. Amanda announced to the entire family that she was taking over to ensure the wedding met the proper standards. We'll need to change the flowers completely, Amanda declared, scrolling through her phone. I've already contacted my florist. He's much more exclusive than whatever small-town shop you were using. The small-town shop she was dismissing belonged to my best friend Maria, who'd been excitedly working on Emily's arrangements for months. Each bouquet was being crafted with flowers that matched those from my own wedding, a detail that had brought tears to Emily's eyes when we planned it. And these place cards, Amanda continued, wrinkling her nose. Handwritten? Really? We'll order proper ones, something elegant. Emily wanted those handwritten, I said quietly. Her grandmother and I wrote them together. Well, Emily doesn't know any better, does she? Margaret interjected. She's young. She needs guidance from people who understand sophistication. My mother-in-law had always made it clear that she thought her precious son had married beneath him. 25 years later, she still hadn't forgiven me for not coming from the right background. Now she was using my daughter's wedding to prove her point. I've taken the liberty of revising the guest list, Amanda announced, pulling out a new spreadsheet. We've added several family friends who simply must be included. They're very well connected. There's no room in the venue for extra guests, I protested. Emily and James chose that space specifically because. Oh, that's been handled, Amanda interrupted with a wave of her hand. I've booked the Grand Plaza instead. Much more suitable. We can't have family arriving at some converted barn. The converted barn was a beautifully restored historic venue that Emily and James had fallen in love with instantly. They put down a non-refundable deposit the same day they saw it. You can't just change the venue, I said, my voice shaking. Emily and James chose that place. They've paid for it. Already taken care of, Margaret said smugly. We've handled the deposit for the Grand Plaza. The family name carries weight there. I felt the room spinning slightly. This wasn't just about changing decorations anymore. They were completely hijacking my daughter's wedding. Everything she and James had carefully chosen was being erased, replaced with Amanda's vision of what a proper wedding should be. Does Emily know about any of this? I asked, already knowing the answer. We thought it best not to burden her with the details, Amanda replied, not even looking up from her phone. She's already stressed enough. When she sees how much better everything is, she'll thank us. I pulled out my phone, ready to call my daughter, but Margaret's hand shot out to stop me. Don't you dare ruin this, Sarah, she hissed. Emily deserves a wedding that the family can be proud of. Lord knows her mother's taste wouldn't provide that. The words stung, but not as much as they once would have. Years of Margaret's subtle and not-so-subtle digs had thickened my skin. But this wasn't about me anymore. This was about Emily's day being stolen from her. I think we're done here, Amanda announced, gathering her papers. I have a meeting with the new caterer in an hour. We'll need to completely revamp the menu, of course. No one serves comfort food at a society wedding. The comfort food menu had been James' contribution to the planning. He and Emily had chosen dishes that told the story of their relationship, from the pasta he'd cooked on their first date to the chocolate cake from the bakery where he proposed. As they swept out of the room, leaving chaos in their wake, I sat there feeling numb. But beneath the numbness, something was building, a fierce determination I hadn't felt in years. They thought they'd won, thought they could steamroll over every careful plan, every meaningful choice. But they'd forgotten something important. I wasn't just the mother of the bride. I was the woman who'd raised Emily to stand up for what she believed in, to fight for what mattered. And nothing mattered more than making sure my daughter's wedding day remained true to who she was. I picked up my phone again, this time opening my photos. There, carefully documented, was every original plan, every receipt, every contract. Emily might be away on a pre-wedding trip with James, but she'd be back tomorrow. And when she returned, she'd find out exactly what her aunt and grandmother had been up to. Emily's face went from confusion to shock to rage as I showed her the photos of Amanda's improvements to her wedding plans. We sat in my kitchen, the morning sun streaming through the windows as I detailed everything that had happened in her absence. They changed the venue, she whispered, her hands shaking as she looked at the Grand Plaza contract. Without even asking me. They think they're doing you a favor, I said gently, pushing a cup of tea toward her. Your aunt seems to believe. I don't care what Aunt Amanda believes. Emily's voice cracked. This is my wedding. Mine and James's. Not some society event for her to show off at. I watched my daughter's eyes fill with tears as she scrolled through more photos. The new flower arrangements, the formal place settings, the elaborate centerpieces that had replaced our handmade ones. Everything that had made the wedding personal, meaningful, was gone. Mom, she said quietly, looking up at me. Why didn't you stop them? The question hit me like a physical blow. I tried, honey, but they. No, she cut me off, her voice stronger now. I mean, really stop them. You're my mom. This is our wedding, the one we planned together. She was right, I protested, but I hadn't truly stood my ground. Years of conditioning by Margaret and Amanda had taught me to back down, to avoid conflict. But seeing the hurt in my daughter's eyes, I knew that had to change. Just then, my phone buzzed. Amanda's name flashed on the screen, along with a text that made my blood boil. Meeting with the new photographer at 2. Don't bother coming, we know what we're doing. Emily read the message over my shoulder, and something in her seemed to snap. That's it, she said, standing up so quickly that her chair scraped against the floor. We're going to the venue. Now? Which one? I asked, already grabbing my keys. Our venue, the real one. The drive to the restored barn venue was quiet, both of us lost in our thoughts. As we pulled up, the owner, Sarah, was outside tending to her flower beds. Her face lit up when she saw us. Emily, Sarah, I was getting worried. Your aunt called yesterday to cancel, but I told her I could only accept cancellation from the contract holders. Emily and I exchanged looks. You didn't cancel? Emily asked. Sarah shook her head. Of course not. The contract is in your names. I've known your mom for years. I wasn't about to let someone else undo all your planning. Relief flooded through me. At least one thing was still under our control. Thank you, Emily said, hugging her impulsively. You have no idea how much that means. Inside the barn, everything was exactly as we'd left it. The vintage chandeliers we'd chosen still hung from the restored beams. The space where our handmade centerpieces would go was waiting. This was the wedding we'd planned. Emily walked to the center of the room, her footsteps echoing in the peaceful space. Mom, she said, turning to face me, I need you to promise me something. Anything, honey. Promise me you won't let them take this away from us. No more being nice. No more backing down to keep the peace. This is our wedding, and we're taking it back. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Margaret. Amanda's ordered new invitations, much more appropriate than those crafty things you chose. We'll need your guest list redone to include proper social connections. Emily read the message, and her jaw set in a determined line I recognized from my own mirror. Call them, she said. Tell them to meet us here. Now. Are you sure? She nodded. It's time I understood exactly whose wedding this is. An hour later, Amanda's Mercedes pulled up outside the barn, followed by Margaret's luxury SUV. They swept in like royalty preparing to inspect a peasant's home. Oh, good you're here, Amanda said, barely glancing at us. We need to document everything that needs to be upgraded before. No, Emily said, her voice ringing through the space. You need to listen. Amanda and Margaret stopped short, clearly unprepared for resistance. This is my wedding, Emily continued, her voice steady. Mine and James's, not yours. Not your social event. Ours. Darling, Margaret started, using her patronizing tone. We're only trying to help. I don't want your help, Emily cut her off. I don't want your grand plaza or your exclusive florist or your society photographer. I want the wedding Mom and I planned. The one that means something to us. But the family name, Amanda began. I don't care about the family name. Emily's voice rose. I care about marrying the man I love in a way that represents us. Not your social status. I stepped forward, standing beside my daughter. The venue isn't changing. The flowers aren't changing. Nothing is changing. Sarah, Margaret's voice turned cold. Don't be difficult. You've never understood. No, I interrupted, feeling stronger with every word. You've never understood. This isn't about you. It's about Emily. And if you can't respect that, you don't need to be part of it at all. Amanda's face flushed red. Are you threatening to exclude us from the wedding? No, Emily said calmly. We're setting boundaries. You can either respect them and be part of our celebration, or you can go have your society event somewhere else. But this wedding, it's staying exactly as we planned it. The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret and Amanda stood there, clearly unused to being challenged. But as I looked at my daughter, standing tall and sure in the venue she'd chosen, I knew we'd already won. The next week was a whirlwind of damage control. Emily and I worked tirelessly to restore our original plans, undoing each of Amanda's unwanted improvements. Maria was overjoyed when we reconfirmed her as our florist, throwing in extra flowers at no charge because some things matter more than money. The original photographer, a friend of James's family, was equally relieved to be back on board. But Amanda and Margaret weren't going down without a fight. The family is talking, Margaret announced during an uncomfortable Sunday dinner. Everyone's wondering why Emily is insisting on such a modest celebration. Let them talk, Emily replied, not looking up from her plate. It's not their wedding. The Grand Plaza called 3 times, pressured by Amanda to hold the date despite our cancellation. I finally had to send them our original venue contract to prove we had no intention of changing locations. Then came the guest list drama. The Havershams are devastated about being cut from the list, Amanda said, cornering me after church. And the Whitfields. Do you know how much influence they have in this town? The venue holds 120 people, I reminded her. Emily and James want their actual friends there, not your social connections. But the real explosion came when Emily and I reinstated our original catering menu. Comfort food. Margaret practically shrieked when she found out. At a wedding? What will people think? They'll think it's delicious, Emily said firmly, and meaningful to us. That's what matters. The day before the wedding, I found Emily sitting in our kitchen, looking at old photos. One in particular caught my eye. Emily at age 6, wearing my wedding dress as a makeshift princess gown while I knelt beside her, adjusting the trailing fabric. I remember that day, I said softly. You told me you wanted your wedding to be just like mine. Simple, meaningful, and full of love. She smiled, wiping away a tear. That's exactly what it's going to be. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. The restored barn looked magical, with sunlight streaming through the windows onto our handmade centerpieces. Maria's flowers were perfect, incorporating blooms from both my wedding and Emily's grandmother's garden. Amanda and Margaret arrived early, dressed to the nines, clearly still hoping to put their stamp on things. But when they walked in, they stopped short. The space was transformed, but not in the way they'd imagined. Instead of cold elegance, there was warm, inviting beauty. Instead of formal place cards, there were the ones Emily's grandmother and I had lovingly written. Each table told a story, of family, of love, of traditions that mattered more than social status. Oh, Amanda said softly, and for once she seemed at a loss for words. The ceremony was everything Emily and James had dreamed of. They exchanged vows under a flower arch made from Emily's grandmother's favorite roses. The comfort food dinner was a hit, with guests raving about the personal touches in each dish. Even Margaret had to admit the chocolate cake from James's proposal was actually quite good. But the real moment of victory came during the father-daughter dance. As Emily swayed with her father, I overheard Amanda talking to another guest. Yes, they did all this themselves, she was saying, and there was something new in her voice. Was it respect? Emily knew exactly what she wanted, just like her mother. Later, as the party was winding down, Emily found me by the dessert table. Thank you, Mom, she said, hugging me tight. not just for helping with the wedding, but for teaching me to stand up for what matters. I held my daughter close, feeling the years of doubt and insecurity melt away. We had done it. We had created exactly the celebration Emily and James wanted, despite all the pressure to conform to someone else's standards. As I watched the happy couple drive away, Margaret appeared beside me. "You did well, Sarah," she said quietly. "This wedding, it was perfect for them." I was wrong to try to change it. It wasn't quite an apology, but coming from Margaret, it was close enough. Amanda joined us, looking thoughtful. "You know," she said, "my daughter's getting married next year. Perhaps you could share some of your ideas about making it personal." I smiled, thinking of how far we'd come. "I'd like that," I said. "After all, that's what family does, helps each other create something meaningful." The last guest departed, leaving the barn glowing softly in the evening light. Everything had turned out exactly as it should have. Not because it was the fanciest or most elaborate celebration, but because it was true to who Emily and James were and to the family values that really mattered. Sometimes standing your ground isn't about winning a battle. It's about protecting what's truly important. And in the end, that's exactly what we did.